I think that stained glass, both in a sacred space or in a secular place, does exactly what it's supposed to do. It raises the mind and the heart to something that is beautiful.
South Dakota is like an art gallery on the prairie. And when you go into a small town, if you go into Polo or Orient or any small town that has a church or a courthouse, and you walk in the door and you don't know what you're going to find, and usually you are totally amazed. You're there, I can't believe I'm in South Dakota. It's so beautiful.
Dr. Barbara Johnson is a humanities scholar from Aberdeen, academically trained in literature, not in the history of stained glass. That is, until she was encouraged to do some research on some windows in Nebraska. She took the challenge on and even visited one of the country's top stained glass manufacturers in St. Louis. Barbara wrote a paper on the subject, but it wasn't until she returned home to South Dakota that this project of researching the history of stained glass got even bigger.
Came home up I-29 in the wintertime, and we all know what that is. We live in South Dakota, and I got stuck in Brookings. And so I went to visit the Humanities Council, and Sherry DeBoer, our executive director, said, well, what have you been doing? I said, oh, I've been doing windows. You know, just kind of like the cleaning lady, I've been doing windows. And she said, well, when are you doing windows in South Dakota? And I said, well, I really wasn't planning on it. And she said, well, you have 2 weeks to write your grant. Originally, the windows started in churches in Europe, and most people didn't know how to read. They were a teaching device, and so that they would tell the story.
Barbara discovered that windows are more than just another form of telling a story. The windows can depict the lifestyle of a certain community or hold visual cues to the history of homesteaders that first came to South Dakota. Some windows have a more spiritual meaning, while others tell no story at all.
Sometimes denominations don't have picture windows, and there's a theological reason for that, because they think that they are graven images. And so you don't find, in some churches, you don't find story windows, you'll just find geometric windows.
The artists creating these colorful windows also use specific colors to help tell a story.
Red usually signifies royalty. Blue is usually used on the Virgin Mary. Purple is the sign of passion. There's green is what's born in ordinary time, and that symbolizes, you know, we're of the earth. Stained glass is basically made out of sand that you heat up and you melt it. And in order to get colors in stained glass, you put different metallic oxides. So if you want red stained glass, you put in gold. If you want blue, you put in cobalt. If you want green, you put in copper. Now the trick comes that there's secret recipes for the different colors, and especially in the Middle Ages, it might be mostly gold, but to make the color really vibrant, they might put in a secret ingredient that maybe the recipes were passed down from generations. So father told his son what the secret recipe was.
Often the history behind a stained glass piece came easily. However, there were several pieces that created a bit more of a challenge for Barbara.
Sometimes the churches keep records. Sometimes it's just knowing what the story is. If I can find a glassmaker to talk to, if it's a contemporary piece, they'll tell you the little story about, oh yeah, you see that nail, that's for the architect. They'll tell you the story. And you know, that's kind of why I really want to document all of this, because if it's not written down, we'll forget it.
Father Shane Stevens of Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Aberdeen often helped Barbara with the history behind the windows in his church. Father Stevens also understands how powerful the beauty of art can be for someone in need of a spiritual lift.
Sometimes when we're kind of down in the world and it's dark and it's ugly, we need situations where there's beauty, and stained glass offers that. And I would say it's really beautiful and it's really important because it teaches a story. You know, you can walk into a church, you can walk into a great building, and you can be illiterate. But if you look up and you see the beauty of this glass or the beauty of this building or any building that draws you up, it does just that. It communicates something that is special. And for us, I would say it communicates something that's divine.
Stained glass artists are really very interesting, smart people. As they once told me, they just don't want you to look at their window once, even a simple window. They want you to look at it many times and see what you can pick up.
You can walk past the same photograph of your parents over and over again, the same dress, the same suit that Grandpa wore, the dress that she wore, and then you see something unique that pops out, some little detail that you didn't notice before, and it draws you in and you want to know more about that story. And that's certainly the case here with the stained glass we have here. I keep thinking to myself, who made it? Who installed it? What was their story? I'd love to know the craftsmen who made it and brought it here. Do they know their handiwork, their beauty is still loved by generations? I mean, it's amazing. I find it a little overwhelming at times, but very grateful. It's a great gift.